So maybe starting with why healthcare. It's a space that has been an interest of mine going back to when I was a kid, and growing up in a family of physicians, clinicians, and healthcare workers. I think the more I learned and worked in the space, started to evolve my focus area more onto the business side of healthcare as opposed to the actual practicing side of healthcare. And that kind of drove me into working more with entrepreneurs and companies, and then ultimately into the corporate venture capital world, which I joined Echo about 4 years ago. And it's been a great experience so far, and looking forward to all the impact that we're going to have going forward as well. Dusty, when I kick it over to you.
Kurt, your story is a lot better than mine. I kind of fell into it. Which is half the story. I started out as a generalist in investment banking, I think as a lot of us do when we go into that industry. And then, over the course of as my career was progressing in that market, and which is very transactionally focused, I found myself drawn more to the healthcare transactions, just given the complexity of the market. And at the time, as my career was progressing, when the ACA was enacted, it really led to, in some places, market-wide disruption in healthcare, in some places massive acceleration, in others deceleration. And that's when I really got interested in healthcare. I joined Cambia about 8.5 years ago, so before the formation of Echo, because I wanted to go into an area of healthcare that was less just transactionally focused. And I thought that I needed that for a deeper breadth of understanding about how the entire industry works, but more so that I could help impact change at a greater level. Yeah, I think the thing that's really drawn me to corporate venture capital, I think it's especially important for our industry, builds off what we were just talking about, right? The healthcare industry at large, it's massive. It's a $4 trillion market. And there are massive players from the government on down, and where the real innovation is happening in that space is necessarily in the lower end of the market, right? Entrepreneurial ventures, startups at the seed, Series A, Series B stage, participating within that massive industry, though, with these large entrenched incumbents. There's a disconnect. As it's just naturally hard for those entrepreneurs, for those smaller businesses, to make the impact that their innovations promise, really, because of how the healthcare industry works. So by being on the corporate side and by using corporate venture capital as a tactic, I think it's a really effective way to accelerate innovation in the space.
Yeah, you use the word impact, Dusty. That's what I was going to bring up. So what's really drawn me to corporate venture as opposed to traditional venture is the work we get to do in the case of Echo with our parent companies and alliance members. It's truly a unique platform that we have, and that others have in the healthcare space, but I think unique to Echo is the deep connection points that we have into each and every one of our parent companies and alliance members, and even within those, the underlying business units. Yeah, so COVID-19, I would say it's had a huge impact on our work. I'd say the one word that comes to mind is just acceleration, right? I think in a lot of the conversations that we have, not only with our parents, but with the healthcare industry at large, what we hear is this ultimate black swan event, if you will, has really compressed what's probably 5 or 10 years worth of innovation into a 6 to 9 month period. And so that's obviously a huge dislocation in the market, but also has created and accelerated a lot of opportunity. And so we've been busier than ever. I specifically have been spending more and more time the last 9 or 12 months during this COVID period in the behavioral health space. This has certainly highlighted a need that even going back years, I think has, you could say the groundwork was beginning to be laid for this need to be bubbled up to the priority it's at now. But COVID has definitely exacerbated that on a number of fronts.
Yeah, I'd echo that. That acceleration is key, right? And as impact-driven, innovation-driven investors who are trying to bring that kind of fundamental shift to the ecosystem, we're necessarily investing out ahead of a lot of these trends, some of which have really been accelerated through COVID-19, thinking about transformation of care delivery into the home, for example, lots of other examples like that. There have also been accelerations that we've seen in other forms. Some of them negative, especially if you think about disparity of access, right? You think about the acceleration of inequality that COVID-19 has driven, and from our perspective, we've had to stay nimble as that has really bubbled to the forefront as we think about innovation in the ecosystem going forward. How do we prioritize that and make sure that we're responsive to all the things that COVID-19 is accelerating, not just the innovation in certain areas we've been trying to get ahead of historically, but how are we responsive to those changes that have been fundamentally driven or accelerated by COVID-19? So what's on my mind for 2021? Kurt, I'll be interested in your take on this. At the forefront for me is just thinking about what does the new normal look like? And I think that we're all looking forward to getting back to some semblance of normal in our social interactions and how we've done work historically. I think there are some things, though, that have probably changed fundamentally. We think about all the travel that we used to do that we're learning we can be almost or sometimes maybe more effective in virtual settings. I'll be interested to see how that changes just the nature of what we do in the day-to-day. But the forefront of all that and the driver of all that is really, I think everyone's thinking about this, is how effective will the vaccine campaign be? How quickly can we roll this out, and how is that really going to impact the curve? That's what I spend a good amount of my time thinking about.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you on that, Dusty. I would say maybe extending what you're thinking about to what I'm thinking about is kind of from the dislocation from a healthcare delivery perspective we've seen in the past 6, 9, 12 months. What I'm thinking about is kind of what's going to stick and what isn't. We've spent a lot of time in the healthcare, in the healthcare space, talking not only with our parents and alliance members, but also with others in the industry. And I would say there are some common and shared opinions and perspectives on a number of fronts, but at the same time, they're only opinions and perspectives, right? This is an event that has happened in human history, but it certainly hasn't happened in this generation to the extent that we're seeing it now. And so it will be very interesting, and we're actively tracking the leading indicators of this, of just how healthcare will be delivered, priced, accessed going forward. And obviously that helps inform how we work with our parents and how we look for investments. So it'll be a very exciting year, and I do hope that we get to our new normal soon, following a successful vaccine campaign.